Hello folks, today we're going to be talking about the Norse gods, aka the Aesir and Vanir, and going over a bit of Norse mythology, the stuff you've never heard, and the stuff you will never hear. Now, before we get started, I would like to ask you to go subscribe to my YouTube channel. That would be greatly appreciated. Now, I'm sure we're all aware of who the Aesir Vanir are. Freyja, Odin, Thor, Balder, all of those people. But before they were gods, they were actually humans. Same thing with the Jotunar. Before they were this big adversary to the gods, they were simply just frost giants, people who lived alongside the Vikings. Now, one of the biggest things that most people need to know about Odin is that he was a paranoid bastard. He wanted more power, more territory, more expansion, and he feared the Jotunar because the Jotunar had magic that he could not perform himself because they had a closer connection to the land, to the ice and snow. So he was willing to do whatever it took to become stronger than they were. So he went to Mimir, one of the giants, to get a drink from his well to gain knowledge of the runes. He gave that to his people, and they turned that into a magic system. And he used that magic as well. He petitioned the dwarves. He had Loki petition the dwarves for him so he could get artifacts to better aid his conquest and his fight against the Jotunar. Moreover, Odin did everything in his power to have one step up above the Jotunar, even though the Jotunar weren't really doing anything to him. They weren't really that bad. I mean, sure, they stole a children here or two, or they did something, but they weren't always bad, or they weren't these berserking, raging monsters that he should have been afraid of. So he did anything and everything in his power to become a god, or essentially. So one day, he met a Manitou, a manifestation of the land he lived on, and he made a deal with it. It told him how to get the power he wanted. In exchange, he would lay with it. He laid with it, and that gave birth, and from that union came Thor, god of thunder, guy who wields Mjolnir. We all know who Thor is. So, he had his son, and that son was abnormally powerful because it had the power of both the land and all the magic of Odin. So, with the knowledge gained from the Manitou, he had his people start to worship him. But you see, worship has power, faith has power, and when enough people believe in something, it can sometimes will that thing into existence. Sometimes the earth also starts believing what they believe, and so the magic obliges and that thing comes into being. So through worship, he was able to become a god. Now this has happened rarely before because usually it takes more than simple prayer for a person to become a god. An apotheosis is not something so easily achieved, and not all gods come to being through this method, but only a few. The Celts, or the Tuatha De Danann, also became gods, but they didn't become gods because they were noble. They became gods to preserve their own life. They hate everything we stand for. Back to the Norse. You see, Odin was able to become a god because he had the direct help of a Manitou, and she showed him the methods of channeling that power into himself, expanding both his body and his awareness, making him a semi-divine being. He achieved demigodhood, essentially. So he had all the power, but he had an eternal youth, but he didn't have the true divine spark that kept him from dying. So Odin can still be killed. Extremely hard to do, but he can be killed. And with that power, he was able to craft his own realm away from this one. Unlike most gods who need anchors and worshippers and followers to be able to manifest here, him and his people can come and go as they please because this planet is his origin. They originate from here. And so with that power, he started to devise a plan to wipe them out. And he almost succeeded, but until they retreated to what is now known as Antarctica to preserve their own life, the ice giants or the frost giants. Odin is a paranoid bastard who will do whatever it takes to win. And if you would like a more in-depth video on this, share, comment, you do all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. And please leave a comment, it actually helps.